The unexpected surprise use case for AI and LLMs, for me, wasn't what I would have anticipated it to be. When I first saw ChatGPT generating a document or, any of the various image or movie generation tools, I imagined a million different use cases would become the predominant use case for AI and particularly the generative AI. But one thing that I didn't anticipate, I don't know why, maybe it was a mental block, was the idea that AI would be good for writing software. And not just good software, but really great, awesome, I can't believe a computer wrote this software really, really quickly. We're now at the point where, to a reasonable approximation, if you can describe it, an AI-based LLM can build it for you. But the question is, can we depend on those apps? Can enterprises depend on those apps? And what if it's not just one app, but an entire business filled with hundreds of AI-generated apps? And this isn't like some sort of hypothetical question for me. As we speak, I've got teams deploying AI-generated software designed to help solve business problems. But the question for me is, sure, they're solving business problems, but are they creating new and invisible ones? Welcome to another episode of the AI Forecast, proudly sponsored by the amazing folks at Cloudera. I'm your host, Paul Muller, and if you are a regular listener, and I hope you are, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with others who might find the podcast valuable. And if you're new to the podcast, welcome. Well, today we're going to explore the growing gap between AI-generated software and production-ready apps. We'll examine why AI development tools often promise more than they deliver in the long run, and what software engineering principles still matter when you're building products with AI. Along the way, we'll explore how non-technical founders are successfully bringing their ideas and their products to market. To help me figure this out, I'm joined by Shanea Leven. She is the co-founder at Impromptu.ai. I like the pun there, where she helps organizations build production-ready AI apps and custom AI models designed for enterprise deployment. Previously, she founded and served as CEO of CodeC, an AI-powered development platform acquired by GitKraken, and has held product leaderships at Google and Lob. Welcome to the podcast, Shanea.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here. I'm excited about this chat.
It's great to have you here. Look, I'm really keen, as you heard in the intro, to talk about this because I have a funny feeling I'm going to have a little to-do list after I finish this podcast as I head back to the office today. It really is an issue that's keeping me awake. I'm aware that I'm not aware of just how big a problem this is. But before we jump into the topic, we're a bit of a dessert before dinner kind of podcast, as regular listeners would have heard me say before. We do our lightning round first. Are you ready to do this?
Ready. Let's go.
Let's make it happen. All right. First up, what would people who know you best say is your superpower?
I would say resourcefulness. I can sometimes, to my detriment, come up with really creative solutions to problems. And my husband has this thing where I see problems and I want to solve them so thoroughly. And he'll say, Shanea, this is not a problem that you can solve today. And I'm like, wow. Oh yeah, that's right. But it does enable me to, really come up with that was a clever, that's a hard problem. What are some clever ways to solve that? I would say that one.
We need people like you in the world for progress. I think that's great. All right. So speaking of being resourceful, there's been a whole bunch of resourceful people over the thousands of years of history of humanity. What's been the most impactful technology of all time?
I think the most impactful technology, I would say, is it cliche to say the wheel?
No, I don't think so. Tell me why.
I think movement of how we think about not just movement from place to place, but the ability to move things, assets, ideas from one system to another, kind of all sparked with the ability to move things faster at scale, right? And kind of starting from, levers and those sorts of types of things. I think that the movement of people, places, ideas, transitions, all of those has really moved humanity forward.
Yeah, I love that. I love that answer a lot, actually.
Thanks.
Sorry, I don't know why. You got me thinking of, it's kind of like the original automation in some respects and the OG. And then I got thinking about the term force multiplier. And then I actually got thinking about, if you know anything about pulleys, right? Like a pulley is literally a force multiplier.
Force multiplier is one of my favorite words.
There you go.
I'm not even kidding about that.
That is great. Well, there you go. All right. Well, let's talk about that in just a moment. All right. We're going to talk about AI automating software development, but what would you like to see personally AI automate in the future for you?
I solve a lot of problems, but there are some really exciting robots to fold and put away my laundry. I would be so overjoyed. Like that would actually take, it's the one chore right now that I cannot automate. It's driving me nuts.
So the regular listeners will know that these 4 questions are the same for all of our first-time guests. And from a longitudinal standpoint, it's only a sample size of about 90, nearly 100. We've nearly reached our century. That is the most popular answer. Not necessarily clothes folding, but like domestic chores. So you're a product person.
Yes.
Go get it. Like there is, I'm telling you, the demand is huge. It's like Roomba times 10x. Yeah.
For sure. Honestly, like we do a lot of stuff in automating the data capture in physical AI. Like it is on my list to be able to do. That would be the holy grail. I'm really excited about that. Putting it away. So good.
So good. Yeah, so satisfying. Excellent. You know what? I don't think clothes folding is going to be the gnarly problem, like, your order end problem. I think it's going to be pairing socks, like literally just the whole act of like sticking them inside each other. I think a robot's just going to go, I didn't even know what's going on here. In fact, why have I only got a basket full of one sock of each? What happened? Yeah, the robot will blow up.
I mean, it's only reflective of humanity, of what we do when I have this giant pile of socks in my corner.
Can you imagine a judgy clothes folding robot just sitting there going, what is she wearing? Oh, no, girlfriend, that's going in the trash.
Totally.
It'd be great. Excellent. All right. A first-time segue on that topic. All right. Last but not least, what are some of the best practices you've learned as someone who works with data all the time?
I genuinely think that people... I'm going to take a contrarian opinion here, but thinking about the goal of data, not what to do hands down and the cleaning and all of those things are like table stakes, but think about your customer and what projects they have to achieve with the data that you're collecting, the data that you're working with. Like, why are we doing this and what does success look like? Setting up systems to achieve those processes is probably one of the most important things when it comes to data.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. Start with the goal in mind and work backwards, right? Beautiful. All right, well, let's get into the topic. Maybe just for the audience's benefit, a bit of background. Sounds like looking at your CV, multiple time founder, a lot of background in software development. Tell us a bit about how you got started.
So when I was 12,
hey, you can go there if you want. It'd be fun.
I've always been really into tech. So I got a computer when I was 12. I didn't have the internet for a long time, and then I finally did, and you could not pry me away from it. I studied business and computer science. Started off as a web developer, helping female authors bring their online presences online for the first time. And I was like a young, plucky college kid. I'm like, oh yeah, this social media stuff, that's a thing that we should do. Authors have books and they want to, connect with their audiences. So I was a young, plucky 18-year-old and first company was started. And then over time, I ended up getting a job at Google where I was working on the Android team and a few other awesome products and doing some AI for Google Home. And then I was at eBay working on more traditional machine learning and a couple of different teams there. And then I went to Cloudflare and then Docker. And then I was head of product at a Series C startup called Lab before I started my first company, which was Cursor before Cursor was cool. We helped developers to master the understanding of code bases. And it was basically a problem that I saw at Docker where we had too much code. Like there was, in order to onboard, in order to understand it, there was, you would have to take a month or 2 months or 6 months to even understand and read all of the code. And I was like, this is a problem that happens all the time. Why do we keep doing it this way? And Codesy was born, where we could visualize every single aspect of the code base, from the runtime data all the way up to cross repository. And then that company got acquired. And I ended up meeting my co-founder, Sean, who has a PhD in computational astrophysics. He like casually mentioned one day, oh yeah, I solved the hallucination problem. Like, what are you talking about? What's happening? And turns out that was right. And he did. And so we started working together to help enterprises specifically build agentic applications. I was part of the GPT-2 beta, so it was real bad back then. I'd seen multiple iterations of AI or machine learning. It's been around for a long time. This is just the latest iteration of it. And so the company Impromptu and our platform today has really evolved from our enterprise customer needs and our work with regulated industries. And we're changing and growing as fast as the industry is, which has been a really awesome place to be.
Yeah, no, it's a staggering, almost dizzying time to be in tech. Or in fact,
Absolutely.
It's a dizzying time just straight up to be alive, let's be honest. It's
For sure.
It's a bit of a head spin. So let's get onto this. I mean, you talked about code bloat for a second, and it got me thinking, sorry, you didn't use the term, but effectively the idea that there's a lot of code out there and there seems to be more every day. And now we're at this situation, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the term Jevons paradox, but the idea, the observation that as the price of a commodity gets lower, you don't bank that saving and spend less. So, for example, I think the whole idea was that as AI automated code development, you would have the same amount of code being produced at a lower cost because it's being automated by a code wheel, to go back to your earlier metaphor, and you'd just have cheap code, same quantity. But Jevons paradox, of course, it's like a 150-year-old thing. He was absolutely right back then. You just get more code. Same number of people producing far more code. And to your point, the challenge seems to be that you kind of can't keep up with the amount that's out there. So at what point in time did you realize that this AI coding thing was both a good thing, but potentially there was a bug or a demon sort of sitting at the core of it that people weren't noticing?
I took a role after a very short role at a subsidiary of Fox Sports. And one of the mandates there was to make AI, all the AIs there, accurate. And that was my job, to make sure that it didn't hallucinate, to make sure that you can't hallucinate a player stat or a game stat, and make sure that when I was at Codesy, right, Codesy, when you're developing code, like it also doesn't hallucinate. I've realized that it's a problem that we had as humans. Like this is not an only AI problem. This is a human problem expanded by AI, right? And so it didn't just magically come up. It's just been very, very, like we had problems reviewing code before, right?
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Yeah. Going back to your Docker conversation,
yeah,
right? Yeah,
right, exactly. So the reason why I had the idea for Codesy in the first place was because I was on a team of 10. We were trying to ship a fix to a security vulnerability in our code base. It took us, the feature was there. We took us 6 months to build, and there was a bug coming from a part of the code base that no one knew. Unfortunately, some developers had left Docker, and that part of the code base, no one was left who understood it. And in order for us to really fix the bug before launch day, it would have taken us a month to review all of that code in order to ship a feature that wouldn't cause catastrophic, downstream effects to something else. And so reviewing and shipping things and moving quickly this is not a new problem.
Yeah,
right?
That's fair. That's fair. I suppose even thinking back to my early coding days, there is a piece of code that may or may not still exist. I'm pretty sure the system that it was integrating with exists. I know that for a fact because I was in with the this is a 20-year-old thing that gets something from, or 30-year-old that gets from here to there. It was written by me as a grad. It's probably riddled with bugs. It's just that the bugs didn't appear in the testing that was done. So, to your point, I suppose there's been hidden threats all along. It's just that going back to this idea of Jevons paradox, I'll go back to my team at the moment. Literally one of the problems I've got is oh God, what's this new plugin someone's created for Google to do a thing that we couldn't do yesterday? That sounds awesome, but what are the hidden consequences of the thing you've built that I just don't know about? So let's get to this topic. AI has made it so easy to build, well, let's not even call it a prototype. I think that's part of the problem. People think, I'm building a prototype, and before too long that prototype becomes production.
Right.
Talk to us about maybe the problem space and how people should be looking at this when they go back to their offices tomorrow, in your case, or today, in my case.
But I'm older than I look, but in my day, we had definitions of done. We had checklists before you ship things to production, right? We have ways of validating that that's a good thing to move to production or not. We have processes, and AI gives us this visibility of, oh my gosh, I can do so much more. The world is moving so quickly, and I need to move more just as quickly as it. Let's move all of those things. Let's just focus on speed. Right? Because if I don't, my competitors are also going to be focused on speed. And so what I see is there are two camps, right? There's all of us previous software engineers who are just like, hey, my leadership is like, hey, I just need to ship as fast as possible. Otherwise I'm at risk. And then I've got new people who've never felt what it feels like to ship code and see it work and do the thing that's imagined in their heads. And they don't really understand all of that definition of done required for AI, let alone not just using AI to build static software, but using AI to build AI, right? If you're building an intelligent application, there's a whole other set of rules required to build a generative app than to use AI to build a static one. That makes sense. So those definitions of done, we primarily focus on, building intelligent generative applications for in regulated industries. And so that's an even higher bar. Prototypes just don't cut it if you don't think about all of those pieces. When you're dealing with healthcare systems, or you're dealing with physical AI, or dealing with robotics, or you're dealing with manufacturing, there are real consequences to not having that definition of done.
So let's talk about, this is going to be one of those podcasts where I just have ideas, because I literally am thinking about my world, and I'm just blurring with everything else I want to talk to you about. So let's just break it down. So maybe we'll treat it like a pop quiz. Generative AI, is it just for building prototypes, or can I build production apps with the generative coding tool?
Oh, you can absolutely build production apps. You just need to know what you're doing.
All right.
You do it all
Excellent.
the time.
All right,
Constantly.
great. Okay, there you go. All right, let's bust that myth, right? We're not saying, because there's been a few folks saying, yep, great, we used a generative AI to build the prototype, and then actual humans they were less productive because they had to spend a ton of time unpicking this code bloat, because of course, AI tools generate lots of code because it's relatively easy for them to do, and it's someone's got to unpick it all and then rebuild it from scratch. So it's literally, okay, so it's not just a prototyping tool.
No.
Next, what are some of the failure modes? Are there sort of patterns or anti-patterns you see when people start to generate these tools as they go to progress to production? I
will answer that slightly differently.
Go for it.
There is a missing gap of infrastructure when you're using Cloud Code, when you're using Lovable or Replit. If you're building a generative application and you don't have AI in the generative application infrastructure, like an eval tool set, like drift detection, like edge case detection, like optimizations for as data comes in, how are you monitoring how inputs are working, and are they getting the right inputs? Can you correct those outputs to make sure that they're actually giving you the right goals? If you don't have all of those things set up, that's how you start to get hallucinations, and that's how you don't know that all of these pieces aren't fitting together. So what people are doing is they'll just hop into Cloud Code, which is fine, right? Or Codex or whatever it is. Those are amazing tools, right? You absolutely should use those tools, but you're just typing in, build me this, without truly understanding how do you move that into a scaled environment?
Got it. Yep.
How are you thinking about the security rules? How are you thinking about the AI policies across the organization, right? Do you even have an AI policy that's encoded in the tool set that you are giving to all of your team members? Like, does it know how the IT team or the security team or the CIO, how they want the AI to be distributed across the teams? Probably not. Governance is definitely a good category, but all of those things actually need to work together, not be stitched together separately. And I think that once the model, whether it's a frontier model or it's your model, once it knows all of those pieces, it delivers even higher quality output than people expect. But if they haven't put those inputs in, they get bad outputs, garbage in, garbage out. That's always been true.
Yeah, fair. It was going to be my next question. Let me play this back and see if I've misunderstood. So there are a few folks who've been talking about the idea that one of the things you need to do before you start to do code creation is spend some time creating effectively like a meta prompt, which sets up, for want of a better term, an almost adversarial perspective on your coding session. So it's sitting there over your shoulder going, well, here you've set up the guide rails. Let me make sure that the code that I'm creating is coherent within those guide rails such that, for example, it avoids known problems. Have I misunderstood what you're saying?
No, you crushed it. Yeah, I think there are tools like ours, not to be shameless plug here, but like we make that really easy for people to do. But you can absolutely create your own policies and put those kind of meta prompts at a high level across the organization. Those things allow you to put those ideas, or if you have an AI committee or if you have anything like that, encapsulate those somewhere so that the teams don't have to think about it. They can just write their regular prompt and all of the things are thought about for them as they're learning, right? When I graduated from my computer science degree, and I think a lot of developers have this feeling of like, oh wait, I'm a great new software engineer. Oh crap. There's a whole bunch that I still don't know. And you get that really, I think it's a rite of passage for every software developer. And now we have a whole host of people, millions of people who are just learning all the things that they don't know about software development.
So let's talk about that because, I'm going to use a simple metaphor, right? Just because I can add and I can count, divide, multiply, just because I know math doesn't make me an accountant.
Yes. Yeah. Right.
And just because I can create code doesn't mean that I've got a software developer's mindset. So with an accountant, you add and subtract. There's a whole, rubric around balance sheets, double entry. There's things you can do to check if you make a mistake. There's how you treat depreciation. There's all of these rules that sit around something that is fundamentally math at its core.
Right.
You learn that over time. To your point, there's a lot of reading you need to do. There's a lot of application you need to do. There's best practices. There's tribality. There's all of that sort of stuff that goes around that basic, what seems like a basic construct at the surface. The idea of things like code drift, there's a lot of jargon. There's the vernacular of the industry that a layperson wouldn't know. What's your take on the viability of non-technical people being able to code into production in a meaningful way, say from 0 to 10? Where do you think that realistically is going to sit now and into the future?
I think it's at least right now at a 7.
Wow.
I genuinely, we
I wouldn't
help
have believed
people.
that.
I with a little asterisk. I say with a
Conditions may
tiny
apply.
asterisk. Yes,
okay, here we
right?
go. All right. Yeah, let's get into the fine print, Shanea. I think this is the interesting bit. Don't expect your IT people to ever touch it once you do it. For example.
Exactly. And I mean,
really?
but you wouldn't. I think that if you set up the system, if you set up the playground with the rails that you expect your team members to have, we've seen it go incredibly well for Debbie in accounting to make an application that she's using. Why? Because we now have this really interesting intersection of developers who can make infrastructure, but Debbie in accounting is a subject matter expert. in accounting. And if you're putting an app or you're putting a workflow in Debbie's world, Debbie is the best person to know what those outputs are supposed to look like, what those guardrails can be. All of that knowledge that's been in Debbie's head for 30 years can now be encapsulated and actually help you produce better code. And so we have this really interesting intersection of subject matter experts and engineering coming together. And if you can break that gap down by just taking some time up front to put the guardrails, put the ecosystem, put the policies, put all of those things and encapsulate that somewhere, then Debbie can add her subject matter experts and now everybody's making better code, right? So I think that process, it will be a give and take, particularly in the beginning, right? There'll be some iteration, but that's just like any other software. If you hire a new grad engineer, it's going to be exactly the same process.
So here's where I get the heebie-jeebies, like big time, like seriously big time heebie-jeebies.
Sure.
And again, it's born out of personal experience.
Yeah.
One of the guys I work with, really bright guy, name's Dan. Hi, Dan.
Hi, Dan.
It creates a whole bunch of plugins for Chrome that talk to a system and then integrate it with another system. It's really frictionless. No one's installing any software or having to go to a new URL. It's all built into their daily workflow. In other words, it's highly habit forming. It's great, right? And everyone's loving what's going on. But here's the thing, Dan, you're listening. Dan is what did you call it? You call it resourceful. I call it a tinkerer, right? Sees new problems, starts tinkering. No change management, right? No idea of checking in and checking out. No idea of the fact that, forward and backward compatibility, making one-way changes, all of that sort of stuff that you don't do when you understand software, right? You build a rubric that allows for roll forward, roll back, et cetera, right?
Yep.
Traceability, GDPR compliance. None of this is going through anyone's head because it's like, I'm just doing it. It's like writing Excel macros, right? It's incredibly easy to make changes. The problem is it's no longer Dan relying on it. There are 20, 30 other people who are looking at this thing and starting to use it. Mm-hmm. And then it starts changing because there's no change control, because there's no IT in place to say, hey, let's manage the rollout of this. Let's think about change management beyond even just the structure around change management, the governance of it all.
I think you just proved my point. It's the infrastructure that you need.
Yep. Yeah,
right?
okay.
So, right? So if you...
so what does that look like in practical terms? Let's pick on a small business.
Yeah.
Or a big one.
Well, one, those businesses are going to be different based on like the kind of business that it is, right? So, the same way you treat a healthcare company, you need to have an audit log of all the decisions that the AI is making so that you can make sure that we're not, putting chips in vaccines, right? Like you need to have like an audit trail for healthcare, right? You need to have.
You went
right?
there. You actually went there. Oh, wow. Okay. I didn't notice the tinfoil. I didn't see the tinfoil hat when we started this podcast. Keep going.
I love vaccines. Please keep giving me vaccines. I don't think we're doing that, but you need the audit trail to prove that you're not, right? It's a requirement for healthcare. It just is. I think that you still need it, right? But you also, if you're doing, ads, you have, CCPR and GDPR and all of those other, systems, right? You have those across industries, right? If you are noting all of the things required and you put that in the infrastructure for the system that Dan is using to create the code or create the new plugin, and you're like, oh, we forgot one. Great. Add that to the infrastructure, right? And you'll have this back and forth. How we handle this is we actually, in our builder, we kind of encapsulate a Claude skill. Like we actually had a version of Claude skills before Claude had a version of Claude skills, what we call our templating engine. And we encapsulate all of the things that we know is required to build an intelligent AI application. And so if someone writes a prompt, if Debbie writes a prompt, we will give Debbie 3 to 4 options, not just 3 to 4 options of what's required, and ask her all of the remaining questions that she forgot to put in the prompt. But then we'll say, this is the consequence of choosing this option right below it. So as Debbie is building, she also is learning, oh, this is what this means. And if none of those options are correct, then she can still just type. But all of those things are encapsulated under the hood. And then each organization can modify even that on top in their accounts. Like we have a place specifically for AI policies, a place specifically for audit trails, a place specifically for governance and evals and edge case and drift detection. And so it's going to require some setup work, but the result of all of that is Dan can ship code, to his heart's desire.
All right. So I'm not saying I'm about to get my credit card out and go to impromptu.ai, but let's just imagine I knew a bloke who was.
Okay.
The question that's going through my mind then is obviously the old adage, a fool with a tool is still a fool, right? So can I put something over the top of so let's just say today actually, because I'm getting quite excited by this idea. I want to be able to say to my team, all right, no more deploying vibe coded apps, or even any app actually for that matter, even if a human writes it, unless it passes through the eye of this particular needle or has this framework, this infrastructure around it. How do I enforce that? Because that becomes the other problem, right? Is because literally they're like, oh, Paul wants us to use this impromptu thing, for example, or, XYZ tool. But that's okay because I'll just fire up, a ChatGPT session or something else and I'll just code around him. How do I enforce it? Or is it an inspection process? What do I do to give myself confidence that I don't have rogue apps running in my environment?
I think that that's also another infrastructure. Like if you're pushing it, like all of the apps that we create are all containerized. So they can actually not just deploy on our system, but deploy in yours and in your own CI/CD. And I think that, lots of people are figuring that out. If you have a corporate account, corporate systems, then right, that's one way to enforce it.
Okay,
right?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yep.
If people are using their own $20 a month system, that's kind of like any other person, right? I think these are all, in my opinion, these were all problems that we had before AI. Like if you had, right, if you had an engineer, right, who was, writing, code and using tools on their own and they're personally paying $20 and they, got, they're experimenting, et cetera. And they're like, oh, I can use this for my job. Like we have a whole industry around that, right? That's like those are things that existed before.
Yeah, fair. But so maybe let's ask the question. So I'm being very genuine about this because this is a problem for me, right?
Totally.
And if it's a problem for me, it's probably a problem for 7 billion other people on the planet.
Yeah.
Because I'm not particularly special is what I'm trying to say here. Is this one of those situations where I could say, look, if we want you to use the mandated approach, there is a mechanism by which we can fingerprint or inspect any of the other tools that get deployed. And if it's not fingerprinted with, a tool that we endorse, we'll have to sandbox that, or it can't be put into production and shared beyond use. So if you want to build something to automate your life, knock yourself out. But the minute more than one person's using it, or it's considered to be a production process, in other words, it's been, elevated to the way we do things around here, it needs to be fingerprinted. And if we find it without a fingerprint, we'll basically say, keep using it yourself, but don't deploy it to production. Can you do that?
Yeah. I think that lots of people do that and lots of people should do that because we have a responsibility to protect our businesses and our users. Yeah. As software engineers, right? Like there's lots of who ship keys to production, right? Or take down, ship a bug. That's why we have the processes. And so when we work with organizations, that's why we have these buckets, right? Of AI native companies that we work with that are thinking about treating everyone as software engineers. And you have what we call newly technical or AI enthusiast organizations. They're very excited about AI, right? And it should be, everyone should be. But there is some education around, how do we have everyone thinking two things now, software engineers and product managers. That is the other missing skill that we see the most with non-technical people, or we call them newly technical. Everyone's technical now. It's just a new definition. We think that everyone can be a developer, but they're newly technical. And so if you think about it that way, right, we are just helping people to go through their first computer science degrees, of like thinking through the processes of what it's like to be a software engineer, and equating that system to stories and analogies that are in their subject matter experts and why those things are important. Because every profession has those same rule sets, right, for why something is important and what are all the stories of like why this law exists or why this process exists. And we just need to equate that, right, and translate that.
Yeah, like I said, just because you know how to add doesn't make you an accountant.
Right.
I have so many questions. Have you seen anything interesting happening with non-technical people, or so, people without a formal computer science or developer background? Have you seen any interesting examples of how that's changing cultures or the creative processes? I'm sure you've bumped into some interesting stuff.
Absolutely. We have so many people building amazing things. We see new healthcare startups being, created, solving, women's chronic conditions and maternal health. And we see mother-daughter teams creating new financial asset strategies and using AI to do it. We see all kinds of people in organizations really seeing their visions of whatever they're doing come to life. And it's been such a joy. I think about this. When I was at eBay, I was leading 7 products at a time. And I was like, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to handle any more products than 7. That's like my absolute max as a human being. And today, every meeting that I have, I'm helping like organizations create new apps, like every 30 minutes. And it's wild. It's just if you give people the guardrails, and you give people the infrastructure, and they can use that subject matter expertise to create these really nuanced, detailed things. We're seeing people generate, extra $5 to $10 million in revenue by automating a process that took, 10 people to do. Now those 10 people can do other things.
You probably, hopefully you're old enough to remember the early days of Twitter and the fail whale,
yes,
right?
Yes, I am.
As they, they wrote that thing and it got out there back when I was using it, back when you could only use it through text messaging on your phone. There wasn't even a web app. As it scaled, as people were, as it became popular, if you could even argue that Twitter became popular.
It was pretty popular.
Well, you know what? I mean, but by sheer count of number of people, there's a lot of people who still but I don't get Twitter, right? And
that's fair.
The reason that fail whale was appearing was because it failed to scale effectively, right? For a lot of the time, it was as it became more successful, computer says no, it'd fall over and you'd need to refactor, re-architecture, which are terms of art that a software developer would understand, but that a layperson wouldn't. Do you see risks in, take this healthcare app you're talking about, it becomes successful and it works, but it doesn't work at scale? At some point in time, do you need to bring an engineering team into the room?
It's not necessarily even just bringing in a software engineering team. It's bringing in a team with generative AI expertise. Building a SaaS app is very different than building a generative AI application. They're just different. They're just different tools, different systems. And we work with tons of software engineers today, work with CIOs and CTOs who are brilliant technologists and have never seen the detail of putting one of these systems into production. And that's not a bad thing. It's just a new technology, just as the phone was a new technology, just as, lots of things were new technologies. Bringing in someone with this particular expertise, even if you have a software engineering team, is still sometimes really needed.
So let's talk about the changing role of software. There's a lot of people who think about this. Mick Kirsten's a good example, right? Who's written a lot of great work on the idea of the behaviors and processes of what software engineering might look like now and into the future as a profession. How do you think AI is going to change the role of software engineers and IT teams in general?
Honestly, I think there'll be a lot of oversight and code review, but I also think if if I do say so myself, we're going to start getting into model training, right? Companies, I know.
You mean Claudia Schiffer? Like different sort of model?
Yeah.
Get back. No, that way. I want you to turn right.
I mean, kind of.
I can only turn left.
I see that.
Going,
yeah. I mean, I think that as we've started to see this, and we had predicted this actually, a year or two ago. We're starting to see the explosion more of open weight models after Fable 5 got taken offline. And companies are starting to say, oh, wait a minute. I'm staking my entire business on this frontier model, which is fine. But how do I make sure that I still have control and business value? How do I make sure to encapsulate the subject matter expertise that's going on in my company? The data that I've been generating for the last 10, 20, 50 years, how do I make sure to collect that? And I think that as newly technical people become more technical and they're creating and have, these tools in their hands and they are overseeing their workflows, I think software engineers are going to be making sure that the company's insights and their unique value is going to be encapsulated for their own custom models. That's my contrarian opinion.
No, I think it's good to it's definitely good to be contrarian. I've got so many more questions for you. I literally could go for hours on this. This has been wonderful meeting you. As you are a resourceful person, but you also I get the sense that you can see around corners a little. And you don't need to answer this question if it's going to give away a great idea for a future product. What concerns or what emerging problems do you kind of have a sense as you sort of put your hands out into space that might be around the corner, but you can't quite put your finger on just yet?
Honestly, the one that I was just talking about, if companies don't start thinking about how to encapsulate their own data, it's just starting. Like, I think companies are wising up to it. If they don't think about those things very soon.
What do you mean by encapsulate? Because it's not a term.
Yeah. So if you want to fine tune a custom model, what would you do today? You would go hire a bunch of people to document your workflows or document contrived workflows. And why is that? Because the data is so hard to get in our organizations. And so we kind of make these contrived workflows and capture contrived data sets and use that to fine tune. I think one of the bets that we're making is actually, why not just put an AI app, a thinking, breathing, intelligent app, in your existing workflows with your existing subject matter experts who are not contrived, who are working in your actual workflows to capture the data to train your own custom models. Now, Debbie has a value add. And while she's doing her work, she can see that output and say, oh, that's not the output that I would make. She can correct it in line and send that over to fine tune. And so now we have this ability to not use, contrived systems, to put apps across our companies, across our departments, to join data together and kind of have the app act as cleaning, like basically data laundering. Like you're cleaning the app as the
back
AI
to the
is
laundry.
processing it.
Back to the laundry. I see what you're doing. I see,
right?
Shanea.
So
it's all about the laundry.
It's all about. I'm constantly thinking about laundry. Laundering.
Datalaundry.ai. You heard it here first, folks.
And we're seeing organizations do this today, right? This is a very new system where don't go hire a bunch of external people to make contrived data. Like, you should have your own custom models and you can decide what to do with it. If you want to sell that to the model providers, do it. If you want to do it, all for you, right? But that gives software engineers the ability to create even more value for the company, which is actual AI, ML training, right? Skills. And we move those application software writing skills to the newly technical people who can also add their additional subject matter experts. I used to be on a team where you have a software engineer, you have the sales team and the marketing team and the HR team all asking the the engineers for things like work to do to help them do their jobs, right? And if they have the subject matter expertise or how they're working in those details, and you have all of the guardrails and governance in place, now we can actually, just shift the roles around, is what I'm saying, to a higher order.
All right. So here's my ask of you. I feel like I have the edge of an understanding of your response. I want to dig deeper on that. So my ask of you is maybe we get you back to talk a bit about this, because data, obviously, our wonderful sponsors at Cloudera are all about data.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be something really interesting for us to dig into. But I think we're going to need to spend some time unpacking that, because I've got a million more questions and we're nearly already at an hour.
Leaving on a cliffhanger.
Yeah, look, again, if you're okay to come back, I think it's a really interesting topic and one that I want to understand a lot more. And for those watching, you will have seen the look of puzzlement on my face. For those listening, you won't have. I think I get it. For those of you who've worked it out, please send me the answer in a stamped, self-addressed envelope. Winners for the correct answer will anyway, but that's not going to happen. As we're wrapping up, 2 questions. First of all, the old cliche, right? I've got an idea for a movie script. It's awesome. I just don't know how to finish it. If someone's listening and they've got an idea for an application or a product, but they're not from a technical background, what's the first step you'd tell them to take? I
mean, they should come to Impromptu. Think about the user experience that not from what you want, but how will a person using this software go through the journey of the product, and map those steps out, because that can be encapsulated into your prompt. And that's kind of how you're thinking about it. It gives you a more inclusive, and also that previous notion of working backwards from the goal, right? Like,
I was literally highlighting that then on my notes, just going, I'm about to say, just like you said earlier.
Yeah, like I said. And I think, and we've seen that process is what product managers do, right? And then they translate that into technical terms, right? But if you start off with the user experience, AI can also help you to translate that journey into technical terms, which will help you with your prompt, right? So then it's just like, okay, maybe you didn't use the word database correctly. Maybe you didn't use the right hex code, right? But you used blue instead of cerulean, right? So you're not getting the right total brand. It's a little bit off. So then those are the tweaks that you can kind of make, right? So but it becomes easier if you have the journey in mind and you're really specific about it.
And so maybe I'm going to give you my version of your answer, which is a little meta, but assume that it'll be successful and what the consequences of success are, which means it needs a bit of governance and structure around it. Mm-hmm. It might be a pilot now, but it could be production tomorrow. So assume it'll be successful. Take a few more minutes to put some of the structure around it that'll help it be successful if it is.
And you can just ask, what if you can just ask the AI as well. What are some of the things I should think about if I want to scale it? It'll tell you. Think about security and think about, you're missing all these things.
Oh, dang, I really wanted to end this episode, but look, so let me give you a real world problem though, because I'm going to kind of call BS on that, right? Because I went through this vibe coding session to create an app that used a fair amount of data.
Yeah.
Hosted on the cloud, of course. So it's on Vercel and all of the usual things that everyone uses. And I'm getting these invoices and I'm looking at them going, this app needs to be refactored. So I go and have a chat with Claude and I'm like, not that rock. I want a different rock, which is how it feels sometimes, right?
Right.
And it's like, well, let me have a crack at it. And it has a crack at it, does some stuff. And then I'm looking at my usage and it might have moved the needle a little. But I'm pretty sure a smart software engineer would have refactored that thing and I'll be paying pennies. Whereas right now I'm spending pounds.
That's true.
I do wonder whether I actually sat there thinking to myself, I kind of want to go long investing in any stock that Claude says to me I should be using as an architectural element, because it's kind of like going to be a no-brainer, especially if it designs crappy code that sends massive invoices. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, it's like a license to print money for anyone who's on their recommended list. And it is a problem. And again, I go back to genuine problems. I'm sitting there scratching my head going, how the hell do I get the bill down on this thing? Because every time I ask Claude to have a go at it, it either breaks it,
Yeah.
or it says it's done it, and I run the usage reports and it's still screwed.
That is so. Sean, my co-founder, don't want to like spoil the thing that we've got coming.
So how do I spell so it's impromptu
with an E. With an E. Yeah.
All right. You and I are going to talk after the podcast.
We can keep doing this over and
You and I
over
are going to
again.
talk after the podcast because I think, look, this is a really exciting area.
Very.
This is a lot of fun, and a resourceful person, if only I knew one, would be working on these problems. Excellent. All right.
you.
Hey, genuinely, if people want, are there any great resources you'd point people to for people who are thinking about vibe coding, about building their first product? Are there places they can go to learn more?
I write a ton. If you want to hear my thoughts, follow my LinkedIn. I post probably something almost every single day about trends or things happening that are important for you to know. And my co-founder is also posting our research papers. I definitely think if you're going to follow some influencers, follow ones that you trust. And a lot of people today are basically saying that they're AI experts. Go check their credentials before you follow them. Like, make sure they actually are, not just parroting stuff, right? But that's a way a lot of people are learning. I tell, because like all of the things are being created in real time.
All right. Check out Shanea's LinkedIn. We'll include the link in the show notes. Well, thank you so much.
Oh, this is so fun. I'm really excited to keep chatting.
Yeah, me too. As I said, I want to get back and talk about data encapsulation. It sounds like a really interesting technical and behavioral challenge. So let's have a look at what we can do there.
Awesome.
And really excited. As I say, you and I will have to have a talk after the show because, I feel like I need to get hold of this problem and maybe we can report back on what I've learned afterwards.
Happy to.
All right. Well, that's a wrap, everyone. If you've got any questions or comments about today's episode, you know what to do. We love to hear from you. Drop a line in the comment section. Hit up Cloudera on LinkedIn. Speaking of LinkedIn, handle @Cloudera with your thoughts. We read every single one of them, even the not so nice ones. As always, we've got a great array of guests coming up. So if you've enjoyed today's episode, there aren't any not so nice ones. They've all been lovely. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss a drop. And thanks again to Cloudera for hosting another episode of the AI Forecast. Thanks again for tuning in. Not that you've got a radio. I don't know why I keep saying that. And we'll see you all next week. Bye.